What's up, guys? The Breachlight is back in Destiny 2. If you've been following my channel for a long time, I feel like I'm kind of known for the Breachlight and Martyrs back in Season of the Dawn. I felt like that was one of the seasons where my channel really started kicking off and I started doing YouTube more and more full-time and more seriously, and it is finally back in the game. I have the old role demo Rampage, which still absolutely slaps, but the new one has some great roles also, and now it is Strand. So in this video, we will be breaking down the roles you want to get on the scene and just seeing how good it is. Does it live up to the hype? Is it still one of my favorite primaries of all time? So looking at the old role, as I said, it still absolutely slaps. If you don't know what Breachlight is, it's a 2-round burst sidearm that just does a lot of damage if you're in the range of the sidearm. So starting off with the perks in the left column, obviously we gotta start with demo like usual, my favorite primary perk if it's in the left. And with this being a strand weapon now, with prismatic, strand weapons just feel so nice. One, because of balance, where getting rapid final blows with this weapon will give us a chunk of our grenade back. Then on top of that, we have demo, throw on devour, maybe a exotic perk. With a lot of prismatic builds in the game, you just will have your grenade in like 2 kills. Strand weapons with demo are just a great combo with prismatic in general. I also really like Pugilist in left on Titan, kind of as a replacement for the Monte Carlo. Maybe you don't like to use Monte Carlo because it takes up your exotic slot, well, maybe try this instead. You're not going to get as many melees back as the Monte Carlo, but you're going to make up for it by getting unraveling rounds. Then also the origin trait on this weapon kind of works great with melee builds, where you're going to get roughly 25% of your magazine back whenever you get a melee final blow, which is going to be like a free grave robber on the weapon. So overall, those are the 2 perks I would recommend in the left. I would say demo is going to be better for Warlock and Hunter for prismatic builds, and Pugilist would be better for Titan builds. Then if you look at the other 4 perks on the left, all 4 of them are usable. If you like Slice, you can go the route of Slice. And the other 3 perks are going to be the more traditional reload perks. Obviously, like I always say, demo is a reload perk by throwing your grenade. But if you just wanted something that's always there, you have compulsive loader for the top half of the magazine. Perpetual and threat detector both will do more or less the same thing. I think threat detector gives a little bit more stats, but if you're on controller, I would recommend maybe going for one of these 2 instead. If the weapon didn't feel that great, it'll give you some more handling, some more stability, and things like that. Then moving on to the right column, starting off, I want to talk about Desperate Measure. I didn't play last season much at all. It was probably my least played season of all time. So I didn't really ever mess around with this perk, and so far in the final shape, I've kind of been just skipping over it and not really talking about it. But that definitely ends today. I think this is arguably the best perk in the right on this weapon. So if you don't know, if you're like me, what Desperate Measure does, when you get a final blow with the weapon itself, you'll get 1 stack of the buff, which will be 10%. And this will last for 7 seconds. Getting final blows will refresh the timer. But at any point, if you get an ability final blow, it'll go up to ×2. This can happen while stowed. If you already have ×1 of the perk or not, it'll just jump straight to ×2. And this will now be a 20% buff to the weapon. And finally, if you get another ability final blow, grenade, melee, doesn't matter, it'll go up to ×3, and this will be a 30% buff for 7 seconds, and kills with a weapon or any ability kill will refresh the timer. So it's going to be a very easy perk to get to ×3 with prismatic builds, and you'll just always have that 30% buff. And given that it lasts 7 seconds, whereas the other 2 damage perks on this weapon, Drone Junkie and Swashbuckler, only last for 4.5 seconds, I think that is the biggest plus of the perk. 2.5 more seconds is quite a long time. So you could make the case just go Adrenaline Junkie, where 1 singular grenade kill will give you the full buff, or with Swashbuckler, 1 singular melee kill to give you the full buff, compared to needing 2 with Desperate Measures. But I think the extra 2.5 seconds up to 7 seconds of the perk kind of makes up for that fact, because once you get 2 ability kills, I think you will find yourself just constantly chaining the perk, and it'll just never fall off. Whereas with Drone Junkie or Swashbuckler, if there's a little piece of downtime, you'll probably lose the perk and have to rebuild it up. So overall, after finally diving into Desperate Measures as a perk, I'm definitely on board with the hype train, and it's just a really good perk. And definitely the damage perk, I'd be pairing with Demo and Pugilist in the left on this weapon. You could make the case, just go Demo, Adrenaline, and Pugilist Swashbuckler, because obviously the synergy makes sense. But at that point, you're making the roll of the weapon like maybe too precise to exact builds, while with Desperate Measures, it kind of can be flexible into almost any build in the game. And the final perk I want to talk about on the right is Hatchling. I think Hatchling is overlooked a lot. I have it on my Rufus, and I keep it over any damage perk, because if you can proc Hatchling on most of your final blows, it's going to be effectively a even higher damage buff than most perks in the game because of just how much damage the Threadlings do. Just think of it as a way higher damage Firefly that can also track if the targets aren't nearby. It is really good. Now, is Breachlight the best way to proc Hatchling? Maybe not. I think if you're in close range, it's going to be very easy. The Breachlight is a weird weapon where I think its effective range is actually very far for a sidearm, where you're going to still be able to one-hit most red bars from a pretty good distance away. But the thing is, its ability to guarantee precision final blows from range kind of drops off very aggressively. But the body shot damage is still so high that I think it will still be getting kills. You just can't guarantee it being a precision kill, which is where Hatchling might not be the best perk. I think there's definitely better primaries for Hatchling in the top slot. So overall, the two roles I'm going for on this weapon, and I luckily already have, is going to be Demo Desperate Measure, and also Pugilist Desperate Measure. I think both are great for prismatic builds right now. Drain weapons just work so well with the prismatic subclass, mostly with Balance to help get your grenade back, and Bravery to get the unraveling rounds. And the final thing I want to do in this video is just show off what I mean by Breachlight just hitting so hard. So look at the DPS of Breachlight with Desperate Measure times 3. DPS is close to 50,000, and this is a primary weapon. 50,000 is higher than the rocket sidearms, and kind of not that far behind most specials in the game. And comparing it to some primaries in 900 RPM SMG with Desperate Measures times 3 also. And then finally a Rampage 140 RPM hand cannon. And looking at 10 shots of the hand cannon, it's going to take quite a while, at almost 4 seconds. And look at the DPS of Breachlight compared to those two. As you see, it's a good 25-30% higher. So Breachlight definitely hits like a truck as long as you're in range. And I think, as I mentioned before, the range of Breachlight is a lot higher than you might think with a sidearm. I find myself just mapping things with this weapon back in Season of Dawn and still now. It truly is one of the best filling primaries I've ever used. So I think I can say Breachlight wasn't one of my favorite primaries of all time. I think it still is one of my favorite primaries of all time, and it's just that good and definitely worth getting. I think that's going to be it for the commentary. There might be some gameplay left, I'm not sure. Like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.